Welcome to Bamfordrose and another forum chat. This week I've taken a post off our own Instagram. This was where I was talking about the lightweight flywheel and twin plate clutch upgrade. And here it's not just those mechanical components which get upgraded. We also do a lot of clever engineering behind the scenes just to make the car drive that little bit better. I mentioned that we take away some emissions devices and they make the car drive and feel a little bit more energetic. Whether on other forums or now it seems our own social media, you always find some Jobsworth unhappy with his own life, commenting, "You can't do X, Y or Z because that's going to be offside the emissions or the MOT test." So let's talk about that MOT test and talk about the emissions. This helpful chap cited DVSA website which lists all the MOT checks and Appendix 8.2.1.1 Defect A, and said if I was you I'd read that to make sure you're not offside. Well, I've read it many times. I've read it for many years. The particular line item on the MOT website checklist here states two things: emission control equipment fitted by the manufacturer, if missing, obviously modified or obviously defective, will result in an MOT failure. And it says if an engine has been modified in any way, it must still meet the exhaust emission requirements. So if what we do fundamentally looks the same from the outside, which it does, and the car still passes the exhaust emissions test at the MOT, then everything is fine. All Jobsworth like this can then comment is that what we're doing doesn't conform with the spirit in which the rules are written in. Well, who cares about that? As long as the explicit rule has not been broken, the car passes the MOT test, then who cares? I just want to go as fast as possible and the car feel as energetic as possible. So let's briefly look at each emissions device in turn. There's something called EGR, or exhaust gas recirculation. So this takes a certain percentage of spent gas from the exhaust manifold, recirculates it through a pipe and valve system back into the inlet manifold, and to a dilution of about 5% is going to dilute the combustion gas with spent gas, therefore reduce the emissions. In this case, combustion is going to be cooler and it will be nitrous oxides that are reduced. This is done from low engine speed to mid engine speed and from closed throttle up to about a quarter or half throttle. So when the valve is metering in that 5% diluted air with the spent gas, that makes an engine feel quite stretchy, quite lackluster to rev up. And with all these emissions devices, the maker needed that equipment to pass the homologation test to sell the car in market. But it's not actually tested for in market. So we can disable the system, experience the better drivability and still pass the MOT test as per normal. Because the system is just electronically turned off, the valve never opens, means that it looks standard from the outside and the engine passes the emissions test at idle. The rules have been complied with, so there's no risk to anyone. Secondary air injection is another emissions device. This is used to get the catalysts hotter, quicker after cold start by injecting oxygen, fresh air into the exhaust manifold, mixing with a small hydrocarbon content of unburnt fuel in the exhaust manifold, and that's going to cause the catalyst to get hotter quicker when that mixture hits the catalyst brick. When you cold start your engine, the catalyst isn't performing any conversion whatsoever until it gets to a magic temperature of about 330 degrees. Each new emissions standard, EU4, EU5, EU6, has a tightening on emissions after cold start. So automakers need to get conversion happening as soon as possible after start. A trick to do that is secondary air injection. But again, once the car has been tested that it meets that spec, allowing the maker to sell the car in market. When it's in market, and in this country, MOT test, then the functionality of the secondary air system isn't checked at all. Because the automaker had a real hard time passing the emissions at cold start and that phase after cold start before the catalyst is converting gas, means that the fueling is lean. There's devices like secondary air injection coming into play, and it makes that cold start, cold drive just feel a bit fluffy, easily susceptible to stalling. It's offering us no benefit in the marketplace, so let's just turn it off and get the car driving better. Again, MOT can't detect whether electronically it's been turned off hardware looks the same from the outside, and the car passes the MOT emissions test. It's complying with the rules to remove that system. It just might not be in the spirit of the rules. Next thing that these jobs worth get upset about is primary decal list, or a secondary decal if it's not monitored. If it's on the V12, then we remove the exhaust manifold, take the catalyst out of the exhaust manifold, weld the exhaust manifold back up, fit it to the car, and just like secondary air and EGR, from the outside the exhaust manifold looks standard. It's been remapped not to trigger any error codes which would fail MOT. The car easily passes emissions on the secondary catalyst, so quite literally no rule has been broken. Perhaps the work done isn't in keeping with the spirit, but when your primary catalyst could fail and completely trash your engine, and when the primary catalyst is removed, means the fuel can be leaned off because the mixture at high engine speed doesn't have to be set rich to quench temperature to keep the catalyst cool, means that you'll actually get more fuel economy with the catalyst missing than if the car is passing the emissions tests at idle on the secondary cat. And because the primary cat is missing and fuel economy is better, then in reality that's a better end outcome for the environment. And of course it's a better end outcome for you as the driver. You haven't got the risk of the primary cat being present, and you've got some more acceleration and a spirited, more energetic drive because the restriction in the exhaust is removed. Going off on a slight tangent from the exact subject of this forum chat is MOT tests themselves. You know, they're not the holy grail of checking that your car is actually fundamentally fit for the road. MOT testers can only look, pass or fail at what they see. Can't go removing stuff to get a closer look at something, which means on a car like a classic Vanquish with its under trays that go front to rear, it's actually very difficult for an MOT tester to see anything other than tyres and brakes. They can't really prod around too much these days, and compared to what an MOT used to be, say in 70s, 80s, 90s in this country, today it really is a bit of a token gesture. A car passing the MOT test when static is no relation to how it behaves when it's dynamic, and there could quite easily be something that's quite a severe failure when dynamic that isn't picked up static. If your car sees a garage annually for very precise service, then an MOT is a bit of a hindrance. It's not really offering any help. MOTs really are there for the rock boxes out on the roads. If you've taken your Aston for MOT and been picked up on any of these emissions related issues, then let us know in the comment section. As always, it really helps us if you can subscribe to our channel, click us a like, and we'll see you on the next forum chat.